Hey, all you dark outsiders, welcome back to a new narration. Sorry I have not been posting as often as previously, just a lot of different projects here at the house that I've been working on, things like that. So I do apologize, and I will try to get back on my normal posting schedule as soon as I can. Anyway, I have a new story here, written by Alex Hicks 19 again. I'll link to one of the other stories that I narrated. That was one of his. This story is titled The Boy Who Was. We stopped checking for monsters under our bed once we realized they were inside us. An unknown quote. "Don't turn the light off, Mommy, please," he said timidly, fear resonating in his voice. His mother laughed lovingly and assured him the nightlight would provide sufficient lighting from whatever he feared would come forth from the darkness once she had left. "Okay, but please check in my closet before you go," he asked of his mother meekly. She decided to humor him and did as he asked. Once satisfied nothing was in there, he seemed a little more at ease and lay down, his young head against the soft pillow. She passed by his bed and kissed his forehead lovingly. "Good night, my sweet boy," she whispered as she stood upright. "I love you, Mommy," he chimed in as she left. Just before she shut the door, "I love you too, Aaron," she said with a smile on her face, as the door sealed him in from the rest of the house. Once she had left, the room immediately became tenfold scarier. The pale nightlight, rather than being reassuring, cast an eerie glow across the room, prompting shadows to dance in the darkness to some unheard tune. Aaron lay in the bed, gripping the covers tightly at his chin. His mother had left the closet door ajar. If he but even closed his eyes with it unclosed, he would be vulnerable to whatever he was sure resided in there once the lights were off. He had to close it if he hoped to get any sleep. He looked around the room for some sort of defense against the creatures that might attack him once he tried to disrupt their plan of escaping. His eyes happened upon the baseball bat propped up against the wall near the door. He scrambled out of bed, disrupting the dance of the shadows as his colossal shadow flickered across the room as he passed through the pale glow of the light on his way to his weapon. Holding the bat in trembling hands, he scanned the room for any possible assailants. There were none he could see. Aaron had broken out into a cold sweat. He could feel the shirt of his pajamas sticking tightly to his torso as his brow accumulated sweat. He wondered if the monsters could smell fear. If they could, he was in for it. He probably reeked of fear, and sweat, of course. He held the bat tight and took a step forward. He was going to shut the closet door. Each step felt as though he was wearing lead boots. It was almost painful walking towards what very might be your death. Dead man walking, as they would say. The shadows had begun to dance again. Perhaps it was a dance of death. Aaron began to wonder what the monsters would do to him if the bat could not protect him. He could almost see it slowly stretching out to its full size, towering above him, picking him up and bringing him closer to it, its horribly scarred face full of blisters and warts pouring out of gooey slime. The dead look in its eyes, in row upon row of razor-sharp teeth. Would it bite his head clean off, or simply devour him whole? Aaron came back to reality as he was now at the closet door. He turned back to check the room once more to see if perhaps one of them had found a way around him. There was nothing, thankfully. He could see his room almost perfectly. His creased sheet lay half on the floor, half on the bed, probably from when he had scrambled out of it. The various toys scattered around the room seemed to have gathered to bear witness to the grand event that was about to unfold. The curtains rustled lightly. He had probably just forgotten to close the window properly. Aaron took a deep breath and decided he would face the monster rather than simply shutting the closet door. He exhaled quickly and swung the closet door wide open, bat high above his head, and ready to face his doom. Clothes. That's all he found in the closet. Maybe his mother was right and there really was no such thing as monsters. He breathed yet another deep breath, but the exhalation was more a sigh of relief than anything. There was no monster. He felt emboldened by the fact he would have taken any monster head on. He was a warrior. At least in his eyes he was. He could take on anything. At the back of his mind, he was almost disappointed now. His adrenaline was rushing. He could feel the blood in his cheeks and hear it in his ears. He was ready to fight a monster. He made his way back to his bed, but with his newfound bravery decided to close the window first. Usually, Aaron would be too scared to open the curtain in the dark out of fear of what would be behind the curtain, or worse yet, what might be looking in on him from the outside. But he was brave now. He was a would-be monster killer. He could close a window and bear looking out the dark window. He approached the curtain and flung the curtain back, bat prepped to swing at any monsters hiding behind it. Nothing. Dang, monsters are scared now, he thought with a smile on his face. They know I'm not scared, and I've got a bat, he told himself. Reaching for the window, he saw it was closed. Realizing his eyes must have played a trick on him in the dark, with nothing but the pale light to provide for his sight, he returned to his bed and threw the bat at the foot of his bed before jumping on it. The adrenaline had washed over him, and he now felt ready for bed, confident in the fact there were no monsters, as well as the fact he had conquered his fear by means of facing that which could have possibly been lurking in the closet. He reached over the edge of his bed to pull up the cover that had been a casualty of his fear and excitement, and had fallen to the ground. Groping for the covers, his heart skipped a beat as he felt not only the cover, but something much softer beneath them. He had probably dropped the covers on one of his many stuffed animals. He slung himself over the bed to retrieve not only the cover, but the stuffed animal too, as some company in bed would be very welcomed after his ordeal and excitement. The smell washed over him first as his head neared the edge of the bed. The smell has no description, but if one had to put a name on it, it smelled of death. It penetrated his nostrils as it grew worse once he raised the covers, beneath which was not a stuffed animal. The decomposed face filled with holes and scraps of skin falling off, yellow with decomposition, stared at him. It tried to smile, but the skin around its face was non-existent, and so the smile was just it bearing the few rotten teeth still in its head. "Why don't you come play down here with me, where it's nice and dark?" it said, as it reached a bony and fleshless hand up and pulled Aaron by the throat into the darkness. I hope you enjoyed that story. Again, I will link it in the description below if you'd like to read it on the subreddit. Thanks so much for listening to this narration. If you did like this narration and the way that I do them, I would love it if you hit that thumbs up button for me. It helps grow the channel. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you on board here as another Dark Outsider. Until then, stay dark, everyone.